What is one practice that we could do today forward that helps move them forward in that leadership and in that healing?
If you're feeling emotional or a trigger, and you guys know what I mean, anxious, angry, just I'll call it more the negative emotions, I'm going to encourage you to stop for a minute and pause. And I mean, do that throughout your day. I don't care how much you're being triggered right now. It actually won't take up that much time, you guys. But if you're feeling any trigger, just get used to being willing to pause and allow the body to move it through. The other second thing that's a close second to that, I do somatic check-ins every hour. Mairin, I do like a minute's check-in. I, kind of check through my body, like head to toe, if I'm feeling contraction, tension, anxiety, and I journal it and I just write it out. It's not that I'm trying to divulge like why I'm feeling that. When you acknowledge it and either write it or speak it out, it starts processing it. And maybe then there's other things and frameworks you can use that are maybe longer during your lunch hour and at the end of the day. But those are the two things I would say. If you're feeling triggered during your day, just pause for a minute and do that throughout your day and see how much better you feel by the end of the day. So number two, doing a somatic check-in once an hour, just scanning your body for a minute is going to be helpful. And then if something is coming up, like I feel tension here, this is why, just write it out and you'll find again, it purges it out and see what happens by the end of the day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Root, Realign, and Rise podcast, where we explore what it means to root in truth, realign with what matters, and rise with responsibility in leadership and life. Many leaders, we carry experiences that shape us long before they've ever stepped into positions of influence. Sometimes those experiences leave patterns in how we respond to pressure, how we trust ourselves, and how we show up in relationships, decisions, and leadership. Today's conversation acknowledges something important in that healing is often part of the journey. But this episode isn't about staying in the story of trauma itself. It's about what happens after and how healing restores our capacity to lead with clarity, authority, and responsibility. And my guest today is Jennifer Watson. She's a trauma-informed coach and speaker who works with high-achieving women to help them move out of survival patterns and reconnect with their voice, their identity, and their leadership. Jennifer, I'm so happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Maren, I'm so excited to be here. Just the community that you have, any way I can pour in just goodness to help them just carry on the life that they're meant for as leaders, because we need really good and healed leaders in this day and age. So I'm so excited to be here.
I met you actually just a couple of months ago at an event, and just quickly in conversation in the spirit of your work that you do, I could not get enough of the conversation that you and I were having. And so I really think that there's a lot of audiences right now that could really use this, whatever stage we're in and whatever we're rebuilding, whatever we're growing, or we're reprogramming from the trauma that we have in our life. I believe that your conversation that you'll have with them today is something that we all will not just necessarily take and listen, but we all need and we can use in the tools as we rebuild and move forward. So, with that said, much of your work is centered around the trauma and nervous system that we have in our healing. Those were experiences, they shape our understanding of the work. What did you have to go through, or what experiences did you have in order to get to this part of your work?
It's such a popular phrase right now, and I love it. Honestly, Mary, like somatic leadership and nervous system work and nervous system safety. And I will say this, and I love it. I love it. I love it. But what I am seeing a little bit is we're understanding in our head, you guys. Like I'm pointing my head, we're understanding it here. But the irony is, where it's stored, we're having a hard time unwinding and rewiring it here. And it really was part of my journey from so long ago. I was doing somatic energy work, Maren, in my first physical therapy practice. I did a lot of holistic medicine, not only looking at the mind and body, but holistic approaches like energy work, somatic work through hands-on approach to help people with physical issues, mental health issues, and how they absolutely influenced each other. And the reason why I got into that is my own journey. A lot of my higher level performance-based approach, I was always good at physical stuff, and I was a high-level athlete at a very young age and went on to college and became a two-time All-American. But a lot of my mentally emotional trauma I was holding in my body was starting to make me physically not well, and ultimately affecting how I was showing up in work, how I was showing up in my new business that I started as a holistic practitioner back in 2008. And I was like, you know what? There's more to this. There's more to overall healing. There's more to overall wellness. And it began my journey toward mind body wellness and somatic healing. And ultimately, go figure, my journey turned into templates and frameworks I made for all the other clients that came through my doors. We started treating them as a whole. We started realizing the physical component,
Mm.
but also the mental emotional components that were affecting body and nervous system, not only in your physicality, but how you were showing up in so many areas of your life. So honestly, it became from my journey of really needing that approach to kind of seal the deal in healing and moving forward and executing from that space, but also helping me help others. First in my PT practice, and now in my coaching consulting, where I work with really rock star leaders that are at this inflection point of needing to address somatic works. And I love doing that.
And one of the things I really want to make sure to point out, because as we're starting this conversation, I don't want people to hear somatic and the energy and the woo of things, because I think that sometimes it's just different language. What I really want to point out is that this is information that we all go through. We just use different words and the ways that we approach it. So, given that kind of a language, what I love is that when we're moving through this, it when you say physical, like, people feel that they understand that it's not just spiritual and energetic woo.
Yeah.
So many people don't realize that they're operating from survival patterns until like much later in life. I know even in myself, there was some of that even. When did you first recognize that dynamic in yourself?
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, it was right when I was getting out of college and I was losing my identity as an athlete. And I started really unwinding and honestly unraveling. And I started gravitating to things that honestly would make me feel stable,
Mm.
even if it was just short term. And I realized it was a short hit. It was actually, looking back now, years later, that they were trauma responses because my identity was shifting now to something I didn't understand. But the good news was it was uprooting all my negative or misaligned patterns. And that's when I got out of just undergrad into PT school and I started seeing this shift. I'm like, what I did before is actually not working and it only works short term. And now I'm starting to see these patterns that aren't working with where I want to go with PT, where I want to go with meeting a man, where I want to go. It was honestly that inflection point of undergrad to getting my master's where my identity was shifting. And you guys, if that's where you're at, often that's where the patterns come up that you're holding your body actually surface. So that's why when we're going through change, whether it's self-induced and we're making the change or it's unexpected, it's such a gift because often to create safety, your body will go back to patterns. And often those patterns are the ones that are really showing you to stay in a pattern that you don't want to be anymore. So for me, that was the first time I saw, oh my gosh, it worked for me for a while to actually be in this pattern for a while.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in this new space, it's not working anymore. And that's when I started delving deeper into what is this really about? This is more than physical. This is more than emotional. But how do I anchor into that? And that's when I started falling and stumbling upon somatic work. And you guys, somatic work at its cellular level, all it is your body communicating to you.
Mm.
Something that if you're being triggered from the outside world, no matter what it is giving you information, senses, okay? It's giving you signals. Everyone that doesn't like the energetic woo-woo word, all it's doing is giving you information that something is off, Jennifer. Something is off, Mairin, and I need you to address it. The problem is a lot of us don't know how to do that. So we push, right? Push it down. We move on with our old pattern. For me, I wasn't okay with that anymore, Maren. It was really at this point, like, I don't even like living like this. I don't feel well. I don't feel myself. Something's got to give because I don't want to live like this the rest of my life. And once I started delving into actually how to rewire and listen to the greatest machine, everybody that was ever made, the human machine, and how to really master it and heal it and unwind this stuff that didn't serve me anymore. That's somatic work, you guys. Hyper listening to the brilliance of your body, not waiting till it cries out. Some of us have to wait till then. Get it? Been there, done that,
Yeah.
wrapped around that tree. But the sooner you start healing it, then now I catch things sooner, right? I'm hypersensitive in a good way to listen to my body's senses and use the frameworks I used to create safety in my body and from safety execution that feels aligned, that feels me, and that feels the exact reason why God put me on this earth at this time.
You know what? I signed me up for that because I get it, and I didn't realize it until I physically got super sick and my body, really that's all that our body is the messenger to what we've done into our lives even from early on. It's the programming that we've put into ourselves that sometimes we don't even know. It's just by existing. But
Yes.
we start programming that body and then our body starts telling us the messages that we need to know about it. Are we holding it properly? Are we holding it healthy? Yeah. High achieving people, they build success while they're still carrying a lot of those unresolved wounds though, right? So why do you think that happens so often?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I've been asked this question so many ways, Marin, and honestly, I've shifted my answer because I actually finally figured out what I think the answer is.
Mm.
I actually believe that a lot of us, because of what you said at young ages, we come in this life with all these like we're unmarked and we have all these, goals and aspirations and we don't care what people think. What happens over our childhood and maybe even to early adult life is we start getting imprints from everyone else.
Mm.
And I truly believe, you guys, at a very core level, it's because we are trying to be on someone else's blueprint instead of ours. And often we don't even realize that because as high performers, we want to sometimes get accolades and have people like us and have people say, you're doing a good job. Check, 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 check. That
Yeah.
was me. And then I realized I'm like, I don't even want to be doing this. I wonder why something I'm successful at, I'm not only exhausted, but I'm not even feeling that is something that I'm really happy to be really doing well at. And then I started seeing the patterns. You guys, I really truly believe if you really step back and do an audit on your life right now, and you know what? You don't have to wait till your 40s and 50s. I hope our stories for the younger population, even coming into this podcast,
Yeah.
if you start looking at that, if you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and you're doing all the physical thing right, and you're doing everything that you think you need to do to be successful, and you're still feeling exhausted, or you're seeing some of the patterns that aren't aligned with where you want to go, do a dead hard stop and go, is this the life I actually want to create?
Mm.
Forget money, forget your people pleasing, for just sit down with that. And if your answer is no, I guarantee you that's a good place to start even before somatic work, because often our patterns again come from what we learn as kids, how we need to act, what we need to be, both in our family, both out in the public. And before you know it, we're doing someone else's game.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing your game, that's okay. And there's steps you can take to start making it move right little needle into the direction you desire. But I'm telling you, honestly, Maren, that would be my answer is I just feel like most of us in our adulting life are living someone else's blueprint and we're not figuring it out. And if we are, we don't know how to get out of the pattern.
And some of your clients, you kind of mentioned exhaustion. For me, it was illness, though. I mean, it was like a brick wall. But for others, like some of those signs and those patterns that show up that lead us from the survival, like we're not being stable. What are those? What do they look like?
Oh my gosh. So I know a lot of you coming on this podcast are high performers, are wanting to do great things, which by the way, that's not a bad thing. But I always say some of our greatest gifts, and this is how I coach to you guys, are the things we have to be careful about because when we're in trauma, we overdo them. So high performers that are on the wrong path are probably doing trauma behavior that looks like overproducing, overthinking, overperforming,
Mm.
over technifying things, over reaching for threats that probably aren't there to stabilize yourself. You guys, love your body. It's trying to stabilize you. But if any of that is you, any of the overs I just mentioned, pause,
Mm.
allow, honestly, you guys, okay, what do I do next? Pause. If you find yourself about to work more that day because you don't know what else to do, because you're in freak out mode for whatever reason, okay, and that's your pattern of overdoing because you're an overperformer, pause. You
Mm.
guys, if I gave you nothing else, we spend so much time going, oh, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Then we move on. If you got no other tool for me, and I have a lot that can really help you delve in a little bit deeper on this, but our body takes a longer time than our brain to rewire for a variety of reasons, which we can go into. But the point is, if you just pause with that reflection, I am about to overperform, and I realize it is a trauma response because I don't know what else to do, Jennifer.
Mm.
Just let the yuck go through. And you guys, if you do that for 2 minutes, the feeling starts going away. You're like, okay, I actually feel more stable. You start getting a new idea of maybe something to do different than overwork. You guys, the power of the pause for the body to feel safe, that to process that overdoing in this case,
Mhm.
and then allow it to find a different option if you wait. And you guys, listen, what's 2 minutes of your life? If it can stop a pattern that's not only hurting you, but keeping you from the leader you want to be of impact, pause. You guys, pause. It feels so good to do that. And when you start feeling good, you're like,
Mhm.
man, I want more of this anyway. There's more beyond that, you guys. But just understanding that you're acknowledging it and you're just waiting for the body to safely move it through is at least a starting point for you to start using some of the somatic work we're talking about listening to our bodies, somatics, and then responding. Like, okay, I hear you, body. You're telling me something. I'm not shaming it. I'm not going to push it away. I'm just going to sit and allow it to move through. Your body does that when it has crappy food in it, you guys. What do we call it when we get food poisoning? It does it kind of violently, but we trust that process, don't we? And know we're not going to be sick forever. Why don't we trust the process of feeling kind of the yuck emotions of something we know that we're in pattern in? What if we just trusted the body to digest it and
Mm.
move on? You would be surprised what happens with that.
You know what? I'm actually kind of laughing at because if you had asked me 5 years prior before I had gotten sick and everything had hit my own body, I probably would have, like, laughed at this and been like, "What do you mean? Like, pausing actually heals you?" Because when you
Exactly.
stop, it seems like it's almost like friction to the belief that, you have to continue to go in order to do all of the things, right? But in order to really do those things, you really do have to root in that moment and
Yes.
pause, and
This
then
is
you can realign.
This is why I love the word rooted that you talk so much about. This is why we so align. I'm like, I'm so big about words,
Yeah.
you guys. Write this down. Our words are our worlds and they influence how we look at things. So I love rooted, but I would agree with you on that a lot of things that we do as high performers that we've learned that work hard 12 hours a day. You guys, I teach this all the time with my elite performance. It's what we call flow state performance. It seems counterintuitive, but from science,
Mm.
our body needs space and our brain needs boredom. Our body needs space and our brain needs boredom for them to optimize both in strategy for your brain and for body to decide on actions to take during your day. I teach people how to start blocking their schedules where they allow this to happen and they work less, but they get more done in a day because they're doing this work that goes beyond trauma healing, but actually goes to the point of how the body works best. You guys, did you know? A little science fact here. You have 40 million sensory inputs and outputs that come from your body every day.
Wow.
It's sensing the world around you. It's bringing it in to your unique DNA. Mairin, it's saying this is what you need to do with that information. People, places, and opportunities that come at you every single day. What if we listen to the body? So we've been talking about healing, right? What if we listened intuitively to our body saying, I need to meet with Mairin today. I think I'll do that. That looks like a good opportunity. This decision I need to make about investing in Mairin because she's an epic coach.
Right.
Do I need to do it? My body saying yes. We don't even trust the most brilliant machine ever made. And yet we go on Amazon and buy $500,000 worth of stuff that we haven't researched. It comes back in the mail and we don't even like it.
You
Think
know,
about that, you guys. Yet we're not willing to trust our body. That is, again, what did I say? 4 million sensory inputs and outputs. It's like, honey, listen to me. I love you. I love you. I want you to do well for me. It has no ulterior motive. None, you guys. And if you slow down, and listen, it's not only trying to heal you, overperformer, but it's also trying to direct you in traffic when you have a decision that might be hard. It's like, honey, do that for you. It may not make sense, but it's the right decision. Honey, go to that network event. It may
but
not make
also
sense, but it's the right people. I'm telling you, the body intelligence is so beautiful. If you trust it, it's going to make a complete difference for you in 2026.
but all
Guarantee.
those sensories, I mean, to me, like, all of that coming in, it feels like sensory overload just hearing it. So I
Yeah.
imagine you really do have to make space in order for that, for it to make more for it to come in, for more of that healing and more of those things to happen.
Yes. I mean, think about that. That's it's like, I got the best for you, Marin. That's what it's saying. Just give me a moment. That's literally saying that just give me a moment and I will give it to you. But what do? I'll wait later. I have to get the kids out the door. I have to eat
Mhm.
my whatever. Think about that versus, okay, I'm listening. The
Mhm.
more I've done that in the last 5 to 6 years, it has game changed. Man, I wasn't even planning to go to the event that you were going to. And my
Mhm.
friend Tamara asked me last minute to speak, and I had to move some things around, use my body brilliance. I'm like, I gotta go. I made it happen. And you know the rest. We could talk
Yeah.
probably another hour about that. The amount of magic that happened at that event for me and for the people around me. You guys, this stuff is real. Stop freaking fighting it. Life is hard enough. We know this, you guys. God gives us color in this life, but let's not make it so hard. And I'm saying, trust this in healing, trust it in execution. It has no ulterior motive. It will win for you every day of the week and twice on Sunday if you allow it and pause.
I think all of that pause so that becomes the healing. What does the process of healing look like from your perspective, seeing it as a coach? And what does that look like?
You know, all of us come from different backgrounds and different things that we've had trauma with, you guys. And that word trauma, I put in air quotes, we have big traumas and small traumas. And I really want all of you to know, no matter what you feel is traumatic to you, it's traumatic to you. So
Absolutely.
I'm just going to give you space and honor that, because all of us have a tendency to shut down and think and have shame that, oh, I have the house or the car, like I shouldn't have this trauma.
Mm.
And that's the first place we start, because a lot of us high performers want to look like we have our junk together, that, we don't have the hard stuff that everybody else
So we
has.
judge
We're not.
ourselves before everybody else judges us.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So for me, for the healing process with a lot of my people, 80% of it is literally wiring what we're actually judging about ourselves around the actual trauma. Many of them actually at this point are very aware that there's something going on, a pattern there. They often just don't know how to fix it, but they also aren't sure they want to step into it
Mm.
because of how they'll be seen. So the first part is really having a good relationship with trauma, which sounds counterintuitive, but navigating that, knowing how much you're honoring yourself from that space. And then when you're in a space that you're not shaming it, but you're open,
Mm.
you're curious because you're not shaming anymore, then it rapidly starts unwinding, you guys. When you're still in shame mode, you're doing this tug of war with any somatic work that's out there. But when we open Pandora's box and you're willing to vulnerably connect to it and be curious about it, that's when the journey of healing actually happens. And then the rewire of a lot of the patterns that we're seeing, both that you're aware of and some it's not unaware. Some of my clients aren't aware of everything. None of us are. But from that space, it gets very easy. I mean, most of my clients, you guys, I don't think trauma work has to take years. Sometimes it does. I'm not going to sit here and argue anybody's journey. And I really want you to know that it is your journey. But with the work I've done with therapists and counselors and my own clients, you can get a lot done in weeks, not
Mm.
years, when you do some of the processes we talked about. So the journey of healing for a lot of my clients is fairly fast if they're willing to open and be curious versus shame. And when we use the frameworks, we get into then how they can use this new healed space into what we just talked about last. Now the body brilliance in a healed space to execute as a leader from a rooted, grounded space. So for me, if we can get through that first phase of the shame space, the other parts to rewire some of those patterns from the trauma can be accelerated in a few weeks, few months, so we can get on to the grounded, healed
Yeah.
space of execution. And by the way, I do want to say this: you don't have to be fully healed to execute. You don't have to be fully knowing it all, because we're constantly always evolving and healing, everyone. But what I'm saying is that bulk that's keeping you stuck, I believe, can be collapsed fairly quickly if you have the right framework, so you can get into execution and use that healed space for the brilliance that you want to give to the world.
I think you kind of touched on it, but I'm just going to say it clear because, I'm sure you get people that come in and they're like, Jennifer, I've been doing my work. I have been working on my development for years, but I'm still stuck. What do you say to somebody who is trying to seek that growth even after doing all that years of work?
Yeah, I'll go back to the first point that often we're saying, I'm doing the work, I'm doing what my coach said. And I'll ask the first question, like, okay, have you been super honest with yourself? Are you really doing something that you want to do? Are you on your right blueprint? I tell you right there, you guys, often that throws them back and realizes a few things need to shift. Number two, I would say when someone is feeling stuck, often they are avoiding two or three subtle
Mm.
things in the process, whether it be with me or other things that are out there that they're avoiding that are part of that trauma response, but they think because it's subtle, it's not a big deal. So we move on. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
maybe an example would be the conversation they need to have with their mom for forgiveness that was due to a trauma response, and they've forgiven everything else, but they're just kind of letting that conversation go
Mm.
in trying to move forward. Well, that part is a big piece of it. So there's subtle things that, and sometimes it's not even directly related to the trauma behavior. Sometimes you're just avoiding now that you're healed,
Mm.
showing up in the new version of you. Will you succeed in that new version? Will people reject you in that new version? I had friends, honestly, Mairin, and colleagues and family that had no idea how to interact with me, and some let go permanently. Others had to let go for a while until they maybe went through their own journey and then was able to see me. They literally had no idea how to interact with me. I almost went back to my old self because it felt unsafe. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I'm being rejected. You guys, we need community. That's part of our human needs. It's one of our top 6 human needs. So when you're going into this new version of yourself, like, okay, Jennifer, I'm healed, we sometimes pull back and avoid being around some of these people because we may be rejected in this new space that we're in. They don't know how to communicate with us. So
Mm.
for me, ask yourself first the question, are you on the right blueprint? Really, that's a big one. Second, are there 2 or 3 subtle things that may or may not be directly related to your trauma that you're avoiding that are probably bigger things than you realize?
Mm.
And third, where are you at as far as showing up in that new version of you? You'd be surprised at the answer that a lot of people give, Maren, that are high performers, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. And I'm like, oh man, they may reject me. So who's going to be left? Well, guess what? My new people,
Mm.
they're aligning with me and support me with where I'm at. But it took me a while to get past that. And I struggle with all 3 of those. And I'm telling you guys, if you answer those 3 points, I guarantee you this week, you're going to see some unstuckness happen, if that's even a word. Okay. You're going to root. I love it. Root into who you really are when you navigate those 3 components. It's going to help you move through that stuck phase that you're in.
I love it. Once someone begins healing and stabilizing their nervous system, how does it kind of show up how does it show up in their leadership?
Oh my gosh. For one, they are triggered less sometimes, but more importantly, when they're triggered, they move back into alignment very quickly.
Mm.
How cool is that? How many times do we waste so much of our day spinning in our pattern and we're trying to continue with our day, right? So the number one way that I see show up is that either they're triggered less, and or when they're triggered, they collapse time and they're able to stay back in their lane of blueprint and keep right on track and through whatever they want to go through that day. Second, I'm going to be honest, Marin, they're prettier. Their energy, and I mean men and women, their energy is more magnetic.
Mm.
They are owning their worth. They naturally have people, places, and opportunities come to them. They're not having to do so much of the overdoing, right? The
Mhm.
doing, they're working less, but more potently. Their energy is shifting. They're naturally getting more opportunities to them. Number 3, I would say one of the other biggest ones is, man, they are so convicted in what they're actually bringing to the world that they're staying more in integrity instead of breaking boundaries, breaking patterns that they usually would do. Like, oh, I'll take this call, but even though it's after 5 and I'm not supposed to be working after 5 because that's my new boundary. Or I'll see this person that I normally wouldn't see because they're not really in my mojo anymore. No, they stay in integrity with the new phase that they are in, and they do what they say they're going to do. So I would say those are probably the biggest things I see show up with them. And I love being around those people. And by the way, no one's perfect, you guys. I break integrity sometimes. I don't always show up in my energy and mojo all the time, but I'm going to tell you, I'm consistently more in my lane. I can collapse time more with my triggers. I am magnetic more times than not, and I am able to stay convicted and stay in integrity with the schedule I've made that I know is aligned with where I want to be. And I draw on those people because they're like that too. And I'm telling you, those are the biggest things that I see, probably leaders that are healed and actually executing forward in the day.
Do you ever find it's difficult to trust yourself even after some of that success has come in? Does that trigger in you a little bit?
You guys, I'm gonna just get the little cat out of the bag. You always don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
There will always be times I call this, and I stole this from a friend. I can't give them credit because I forgot what friend I stole this from, but I love the phrase: new level, new devil. And what I
Ooh.
mean is the new level you're going at will absolutely bring up those old triggers because you're stretching again. So remember, it kind of wants to create safety again. So some of those old patterns will come up, and one of them often, can I trust myself? Can I not only trust myself it'll work out for my best, not that it'll work out the way I want it to, that it'll work out the way God wants it to. That is a major flex, you guys. And I'm telling you, that truth questioning is always going to show up every new level you go to, but with some of the tools and frameworks, and you've obviously learned, hopefully, as you've gone through your healing journey, you can collapse time more when you're like, I'm not trusting myself. Because I'm going to be honest, I did not trust myself last week. I have this new stepping in that I'm going into with my business. I'm like, well, can I do that? Do I have the space? Am I talented enough? I had that. You guys, that was just last week.
Right.
And of course, I have coaches. Of course, I have community. Of course, I have frameworks to go, okay, wait a minute. Is that truth? Oh, by the way, you guys, if you're not trusting yourself often, that doesn't feel good, right?
Mm.
Write this down. When you don't feel good in the body with a belief in particular, it's a lie. It's a lie.
Mm.
It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. What I want you guys to understand is there can be a fact that's going on. Maybe your bank account is lower than you want it to be in your business. Like, Jennifer, that's fact. But the belief you're making about that bank account, that is the lie that gives you that feeling, that puts you in shutdown, that puts you back in pattern versus truth. And truth is modifiable. Okay, my bank account is at $20, Jennifer, and I'm really wondering if I can actually trust myself with this new investment, whatever. What's truth? What can you get resourceful in? Who can you connect with to help create revenue quickly, to help create solutions to increase your bank account so you can continue down this road of the business you want? Can you trust yourself to come up with that truth? So if you're feeling negative, that yuck inside, that tension,
Yeah.
when you say a belief about something that is fact, that's a lie. When you use some of these frameworks we're talking about to shift your state, release the trauma, and get in a rooted, I love it, Maren, rooted space, you can learn and see a truth that is about that fact that can be changed.
Mm.
And when you get that, you win in a 2026, you win in a 2020 crazy year. You guys, I opened my first PT practice in the 2008 crash. All my mentors said I would fail. You guys, all my mentors, don't do it. I opened it anyway, made six figures the first year, and I opened in May. You guys, it was hard,
Woo-hoo.
but because I did this, because what the work I'm talking about, I am not special. I am special in the eyes of God, but all of us are. What I'm saying is, I'm not special. I don't have any better gifts than the rest of you. I just learned how to use this and what the fear was and the belief I was making about I can't do it because everybody's saying I'm gonna fail and I don't want to fail. It's like, God, put this in my heart. What can I make that's truthful about this? I had to shift my state. I had to learn the somatic work. I had to get grounded and rooted in my body. And from that space, I found the answers. I found the truth. I found my people to get resourceful. I found a loan at the time, all this to move my company forward. And you guys, if I wouldn't have done that, think about how many thousands and thousands, and I will say that thousands of lives that I changed by opening that practice. What if I wouldn't have opened it?
Mm.
If you're in that juncture and you're like, should I write the book? Should I open the business? Think about how many lives will not be affected if you don't do it. And if you are afraid and don't do it, what are you teaching others? Because I'm not saying don't be stewards of your money and be resourceful and smart about your strategy, but it starts with you trusting that you'll be okay with whatever's coming up as fact that day, that you'll be given the resources to find a way. God always provides a way, but pausing and allowing the belief to come through and say, what else is here besides that crazy, stupid belief that is not true that I can make moving forward? And it starts with you healing here. It starts with you rooting in that healed space and then trusting that body brilliance to give you the answers, you guys. And when you do that, you again will win this game called life
Mm.
in being in the space that you're supposed to be in while you're here on this earth. Because to me, the greatest gift you can give, Maren, I can give, is being that best version of myself, the real version of myself, and go with that. And that's what this work is with somatic leadership.
I love it. I say it at the end of every one of my podcasts, Root in that truth, realign with what matters, and rise from there. And that's exactly it. I love that so, so much. Before you and I got on and we started recording, I had asked you if there was something else that you wanted to talk about. And you had actually said something to me, something that you've noticed. And I want to point it out because it goes past just the healing part in order to really focus to make sure that it endures. So, can you share a little bit of that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you guys, I've been a healer my entire life. I love the healing space. It's vital. It's important. We need healed leaders. What I am seeing in this space somewhat is us staying in the healing realm a little bit too long. And by the way, as I said earlier, we're always constantly healing, evolving. But there's this point that God, the creator that made you, wants you to heal, then execute.
Mhm.
Heal, then execute. There's a space for healing, but there comes a point where some of you, maybe you're on this call, that you feel that nudge, that you've been in this healing space for a while. Ask yourself, are you open to stepping into execution? If you're not, what's going on? What fears coming up? What are you avoiding? What did I just say before about I was afraid of, like, okay, I'm healed. What if I'm rejected? What if people don't understand how to connect with me because I'm in a new space? Like, sit with that, you guys. What is the one quote? I can't remember what poem it's from, but often we're not afraid of failing, but we're afraid of our light shining, of us actually showing up and people actually accepting us, or maybe they don't, and we think it's not going to work out. I'm going to encourage all of you, if you're on that healing space right now, are you at the point that you need to execute? And I'm going to actually venture to say a lot of you are. The reason why I say that is I just feel this global collective that is coming through our world, that we need healed leaders to actually now come into the world and execute. Our world is hurting, and we need you to have that courage. Connect with people like us, connect with the community, connect with the coach to help you move into that space. But we need to move from this space of healing into execution. There's ways of doing that. I do that work all the time, you guys. That's what I do. I do the somatic healing. Then we take that body brilliance and create execution strategies for you to bring whatever it is you're giving to the world in your inflection point, in your new identity. And if that's you, reach out to me, reach out to Mairin, but there's ways to move past that. But I would just encourage you to pause and ask yourself that question. Are you holding on to just being in this safe space of healing
Mm.
because it feels stable? Or are you afraid of stepping into this new space that God is now calling you to be in? And you're at that juncture. And if you feel that, like, yes, you're speaking to me, Jennifer, this is when you step in, even with one small step, even with reaching out to Mairin or someone to help move you into that direction, because we need healed leaders now executing more than ever. So I would encourage people just to audit themselves on that, take what we've talked about today, but really sit in this and go, am I ready to now take my healed leadership into a space that I know the world needs? Because the world does need you, you guys.
I love it so, so much because I mean, I say it all the time. You don't have to behold a lead. And I think that's the problem is people wait thinking there's this
Yes.
finish line of healing before they can actually move forward again to do more. And I don't think that's how it works. I think that we have to show up, and that's part of the healing as well in that. So I love that you actually added that and shared that. I feel like it means so much to so many people who really just need to make that decision and move. Thank
Yes.
you.
Awesome. Yes, of course.
So a lot of people, I ask this at the end of every one of my podcasts, and I want to ask you, as people are shifting from this conversation forward, and we're all kind of living in a little bit of our own survival modes. What is one practice that we could do today forward that helps move them forward in that leadership and in that healing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, you guys, if you're feeling emotional or a trigger, and you guys know what I mean, anxious, angry, just, I'll call it more the negative emotions, negative emotions. I'm going to encourage you to stop for a minute and pause. Stop for a minute and pause. And I mean, do that throughout your day. I don't care how much you're being triggered right now. It actually won't take up that much time, you guys. But if you're feeling any trigger, just get used to being willing to pause and allow the body to move it through. The other second thing that's a close second to that, I do somatic check-ins every hour. Mairin, I do like a minute's check-in. I, kind of check through my body, like head to toe, if I'm feeling contraction, tension, anxiety, and I journal it and I just write it out. It's not even that I'm trying to divulge like why I'm feeling that. When you acknowledge it and either write it or speak it out, it starts processing it. And maybe then there's other things and frameworks I use you can use that are maybe longer during your lunch hour and at the end of the day. But those are the two things I would say. If you're feeling triggered during your day, just pause for a minute
Mm.
and do that throughout your day and see how much better you feel by the end of the day. Or maybe things went better that day. Just see how that works. And number two, doing a somatic check-in once an hour, just scanning your body for a minute is going to be helpful. And then if something is coming up, like I feel tension here, this is why, just write it out and you'll find again it purges it out and see what happens by the end of the day. Those two things combined, you guys, you'll be surprised how much better you feel at the end of the day. And honestly, probably how much more you showed up in your truest self during the day because you got the motion a little bit calmed down and moved out and processed. So you and Maren and I, or you and I, can actually connect better because that is a little bit more dissipated or gone. So those I would give kind of a combo that would be really helpful for them. That would really be moved through the rest of the day for sure.
Jennifer, thank you so much. I knew that this conversation would be so powerful and help so many, and I'm just sitting here so grateful that you shared all of this because I know that this is something that was necessarily and needed. So thank you so much. Where can people find you after they listen to this? I'm sure everyone's going to want to reach out. They'll have questions. They'll want to follow you further and even want, to help do more work. So help them heal. Where can they find you?
Abs- Absolutely. I'm the most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel with some free little tidbits there too. But on Instagram, I'm the Jennifer Watson. And then on LinkedIn, it's Jenn dash Watson. I had to do that because there's a lot of Jennifer Watsons on LinkedIn apparently. But those are the two places I'm probably the most active. I do answer my own DMs. If you guys have any questions on this episode or you're looking for continued support, I love this work. And I believe healed leaders are the more powerful leaders. So here to help you in any way I can.
Thank you so much. And your info will also be in the show notes. So if there's any clarity that's needed further, it'll be right there as well. Before we wrap, I want to remind everybody that you don't have to be whole to lead. Leadership doesn't begin once everything is resolved. It begins when you root yourself in that truth, you realign with what matters, and you choose to rise with responsibility right where you are. That's how the healing begins.